on, RotoGrinders? Dean here. It's Dean7904. If you want to get all technical on me, it's 3 o'clock on the East Coast. It's noon on the West Coast. Of course, that means it's time for Yahoo DFS Live, presented by RotoGrinders, where we meld the world of season-long experts and DFS players as well. We bring in two of the finest from Yahoo. It's no different this week. Leading off is Scott Pianowski. Scott, how's Thursday treating you?
Good. Looking forward to the Seahawks and Cardinals tonight. Maybe a good game. Starting to get a little frosty in November in Detroit, which I'm fine with. And I finally had a good DFS week. I didn't win it, but I came in second, so at least I don't have to put the bag over my head. Let's talk some football.
We'll talk about your lineup in just a second, and we'll talk about the Thursday game too, because I think it is kind of interesting and something worth talking about. And one of the players I definitely don't want to play is something we'll talk about as well. But also, let's bring in Andy Behrens. Andy, how's Thursday treating you?
Good. I'm waiting for the Zeke news to break for what feels like the 8th time this year, right? As to last week's DFS contest, we all lost to Brad Evans, right? Nobody all lose to Brad Evans.
Did he brag about this? Did he mention it to anybody, or he's just kind of like humble and quiet about it?
He usually waits to tell me all about it in person, so I expect to hear about it this weekend extensively.
I have a rule. I don't cheerlead for those who cheerlead for themselves. So, Brad, I remember once Terrell Owens. This is kind of apropos because they brought the touchdown celebration back. One year, Terrell Owens scored a touchdown and then went in with the cheerleaders, took the pom poms, and did the cheerleader. That's basically the Brad Evans move without the touchdown.
Oh, I like the marker one. Like he actually was playing with a marker in his sock, right? Like
yeah, he was awesome. The Terrell Owens was fantastic. The fact that they have not put him in the Hall of Fame immediately to make the voters are just kind of jerking him around. So stupid. He's overqualified to be in that place. Heck, I just wish I wouldn't mind if he came back and played with all the injuries this year. You know, if Terrell Owens wanted to play for the Patriots, I'd be fine with that.
He'd be the wide receiver 1 for the 49ers right now. Yeah. Like go right back in the 49ers.
Like he never left. He would do the same for my Bears. There's probably 3 teams on which he would be the best receiper on the roster currently.
And for all we know, Pierre Garcon and Marquise Goodwin may have the best TD celebrations in the league. We'll never see them. They don't score. You know,
they've been planning it out for 9 weeks. One of these weeks they'll bust it out for sure. We're going to talk about Week 10 in just a second. We always look back and kind of see we had this contest for RG guys and Yahoo guys. We enter a contest every single week and see how we did. Scott, we'll talk about, I guess, your victory lap amongst the 3 of us. You finished 2nd out of 15th. I absolutely tanked. We'll talk about me in a second. But how about yourself, Andy? Where did you land in this contest? And we'll talk about your lineup construction.
I'm just looking at it right now. I was 11th last week, which not great. The guys at the money positions for me all basically underperformed their projection. The killer for me was Kareem Hunt, right? Quiet workload, played about half the snaps in the game for his team. I don't feel bad about him going forward. Obviously, began the season with like 700-yard games. Just one of those quiet Andy Reid-ish, forgets his running back sort of weeks from him, and that really doomed me from the start. There's no overcoming that. I got Jay Cutler right. That was kind of sort of something. 3 touchdown passes out of him. But Jay, shockingly, was not enough to carry me past the juggernaut that was Team Evans.
Yeah, as for myself, I finished right behind you. I finished 12th. I got Jared Goff right, and then like that kind of where it stops. I was all over Lamar Miller. I thought like they'd be forced to run the ball a ton, but like you just can't. Like that offense is so inept. It's so bad without Watson. He looks. I mean, I don't know how much it was his fault. Just the offense as a whole looks terrible. Michael Thomas, I keep chasing like he's going to score one of these days. He's going to have that big day, and he's due for some touchdown regression. You mentioned Kareem Hunt. He's a guy that had so many touchdowns to start the season, some big runs as well too. But he is a month or so. Maybe he's got a secret touchdown celebration. He's waiting to bust out. We haven't seen in a while. Dez Bryant. Oh, I actually had a little bit of TJ Yeldon. I chased that. I chased that news. That did not go well. It was a disaster for me. Let's move on. It did not go well for the old almanac. My week was poor. How about yourself? Scott, you put up a pretty solid number there, 128 and change.
Yeah, I mean, when you come in second, do the Carolina Panthers have NFC Championship banners that they hang? I mean, it's nice. The idea is to win it. Jacoby Brissett's been a really nice value player. He actually has 4 top 10 quarterback performances on the year, just by comparison. I know it's not a perfect metric. It doesn't mean he's a great player necessarily, but Marcus Mariota has 1. Ben Roethlisberger has 1. Brissett's quietly been a nice player. I know one of the touchdowns to Hilton was a little bit fluky. They thought Hilton was down. Hilton realized he wasn't, got back up, but still, I think Brissett's been a nice value this year. And Marvin Jones was a hit for me. Detroit has kind of accepted, even though they waste time with Abdullah every week, they've kind of accepted they need to be a pass-first offense. And when they throw it, it's mostly to Golden Tate and Marvin Jones. Jones has been a monster for 3 straight games, double-digit targets. He had the 2 touchdowns, 107 yards against the Lions. And even though after this week, they get Cleveland this week, a cherry matchup, of course, the matchups get a little bit harder in the playoff weeks, but I think Detroit, because they really only can go one way to produce, and their tight ends stink. We haven't seen Kenny Golladay since his Hall of Fame speech on opening day. So I think we're going to see a lot of Golden Tate, a lot of Marvin Jones, and a lot of Matt Stafford. I think these guys, and again, not the greatest matchups after Cleveland this week. I don't care. These guys are going to be on championship rosters, I think, next month.
It's crazy. Holiday's in the Hall of Fame, and Terrell Owens isn't. I don't know how that worked out, but somebody got a call for a recount or something like that. We'll talk about Thursday Night Football in a second, but since you're on it, as far as Detroit, Scott, what are your thoughts? It's not really chasing points, is it? If the matchup is good and the price is right, and I'm fairly certain as far as Yahoo, like the pricing was already out before the Monday night, big game there happened for Marvin Jones, and he's been getting a ton of targets of late anyway. Basically around 10 or so the last 3 weeks, and he's facing Cleveland. Looks like he's on the wrong side of the cornerback matchup, but macro versus micro, I suppose. But I don't care. Cleveland stops the run, and Cleveland stops the run, and you can pass on them. Detroit can't run the ball, and they can pass. So, Scott, I'm thinking that we're going to get some. We'll talk about Stafford in a second, but what about his receivers? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't want to say too much about it because I know Matt has a take on Andy has a take on Matthew Stafford. But is it chasing points when you're up against Cleveland? I don't think it is. Here's one thing about defense, okay? No, just to give an idea of what matters on defense. The Jaguars are the best pass defense in the league. I believe they're 31st in run defense DVOA per Football Outsiders, and they overall have the number 1 defense. The Browns have the best running defense in the league. They have a bad pass defense, and I think they're 18th in the league in overall DVOA defense. So, kids, if you're going to stop the pass of the run, let me tell you, it's going to be the pass defense. Who cares if they run on you? We've seen this before. It doesn't matter if they get 4 or 5 yards to carry. That's not going to beat you. The idea is the guys running past you, the guys who are in the end zone, the teams that are throwing for 300 yards on you. Cleveland, as usual, doing it wrong. And Jacksonville, as usual, doing it right. Now, I guess I can't really say that. But the Jaguars finally have a football team after sucking for, how many ever years in those awful helmets and all that stuff. But, Andy, you have some comments on Matt Stafford as we kind of trample over your lead, but let me throw the floor to you.
Well, no, actually, if I can underscore what you're saying about Jacksonville, and they're another team that I intended to talk about a little bit later, but Jacksonville's had a bunch of situations so far this year where they're like, please run the ball. We remember the London game, right? They're facing Baltimore. They're up by 30. And they're giving Alex Collins whatever, you're running down the clock, you're getting us out of here. They didn't care. There's a couple of other situations for that.
Alex Collins is another player who has the greatest touchdown celebration in the world that we have not seen yet.
Yeah, yes, exactly. So they've just had a little bit of that. I mean, Jacksonville is also allowing the fewest points per game, right? I wouldn't overplay the whole you can run the ball against Jacksonville thing, because the game script has led them to some situations where they are begging you to run the football and certainly willing to give up 5-6 yards per carry. While you're down multiple touchdowns against a great defense. As to Matthew Stafford, yes, Stafford was on deck for me to talk this week. He carries a high price tag, right? He's $37 in our daily game, and I love him. I'm not building every lineup around Matthew Stafford, but I've built a healthy number of lineups around him so far. It's not a prohibitive price, and then obviously we look at this matchup with the Browns. Not only is it difficult to run against the Browns, but Detroit can't possibly want to run the football after what they saw on Monday night. It's not a dominant rush attack anyway. Stafford has 3 straight games with 300-plus passing yards. Of course, he was great against the Packers. He was great the week before that. And then you look at Cleveland's pass defense. It has been atrocious. They allow an opponent's passer rating of 103. That's the second highest in the league. Given up 16 touchdown passes already. I think that's the 3rd most in the league. It is how you attack this particular bad team. Stafford is absolutely clicking with Tate, with Marvin Jones. Marvin now last 3 games has 37 targets. So they're like, he's a circle of trust receiver for us right now. So yeah, even with the high price tag, I'm all about Stafford.
Yeah, you're just talking about the era of running the ball, like the 72 Dolphins or like the the Otis Anderson, John Riggins, like the 4 yards in a cloud of dust. Like who is still pushing that? Get those coordinators out of the league. It's a passing league, obviously. So as far as guys, this is obviously the topic of is he worth it? And Andy, you're saying that Matthew Stafford is worth it, and that sounds like Scott, you confirm, and I agree. Matthew Stafford seems really, really well positioned. How about yourself, Scott? Who are you considering paying up for this week?
Well, it's been a year where so many teams have been taken down by quarterback injuries or taken down by a major injury on offense. We can't trust the Packers anymore. We can't trust the Texans anymore. We can't trust the Broncos anymore. So where does a fantasy owner look for relief? Of course, the New York Jets, Josh McCown, 5 straight games with multiple touchdowns. And my specific player here is Robbie Anderson. And I mentioned him not because people don't realize Anderson is playing well, but just to underscore that even as Anderson is, I think, the 12th highest or 11th highest priced receiver this week in Yahoo, that maybe he may move up that list if Des Bryant doesn't play. Bryant's probably dinged up enough that nobody's going to touch him anyway. But $24 for Robbie Anderson, and I'm happy to cut the check. That just shows you where we are in week 10, 2017. Touchdowns in 3 straight games, and now he gets a Tampa Bay defense that will gladly let you go anywhere on the field you want to go. They will escort you. They will be your valet. You just hand them the pink ticket and go where you want. And so Robbie Anderson, man, the Jets, very consistent offense. Didn't he talk about the circle of trust? Robbie Anderson is in there. He's probably giving directions and handing out drinks and whatnot. And I expect another multiple touchdown game from Josh McCown. And if anybody's going to catch a touchdown pass here, it's Anderson. We know that Jeremy Curley's out of the way. Shafir and Jenkins having a nice season, but not the biggest volume season. I think maybe Anderson's breakout year may be a little bit obscured from some other things. It sounds like maybe even no Matt Forte, which may funnel more to Anderson as well. The sticker shock may get you off him because he's at $24, but I am happy to cut that check.
Yeah, that was my first thought. Is like, I hope he's a little bit cheaper, but then for that reason, it's probably going to get some people away from him as well. But he, one big play, he can justify that price tag as the one play against his Tampa Bay secondary, which is pretty dreadful. And I don't want to give too much away. I have a lot to say about this game. You do as well, because later on the show, you have I believe your hot take has to be on the other side. But I mean, this is an amazing revenge. I love revenge. I love narrative. It's a double revenge game. Yeah, I mean, you mentioned ASJ. ASJ hates the coach for Tampa.
Yeah, he should. Yeah. He should hate him too, though. But by the way, Dean, I'm declaring it revenge week against you in DFS. So
that means there's no chance I win. I'm done.
I'm going to be jailing Ramsey to your AJ Green this week.
So why the helmet's undefeated still, right? Why are we still punching helmets? Like, why are we doing that? Can we stop?
Helmet undefeated, right?
A wit really would be more. I mean, there's an ear hole that would be more, constructive. I think a little goofy, but it wouldn't hurt, and at least we get a little bit of effective.
Hockey fights, right? The idea is that if the men in the hockey fights throw the helmet off, they throw the gloves off. They make clear that they mean business. Yeah, when the helmet's involved, the fight really takes on a different complexion. It's a weird thing. That's like my one concern about AJ Green this week. I hope his hand's all right. Like if he drops a couple of passes, we'll know why. Well, what are your thoughts there, maybe
Andy?
Maybe Amari Cooper was fighting all summer or something. that guy makes Eric Ebron look like the good hands people. I mean, that's getting a little ridiculous. Also, I thought Oakland deserved a taunting penalty for putting Amari Cooper on the hands team. I mean, what are you doing? You're just flipping off the Dolphins at that point.
Amari Cooper moonlights as a bouncer or something like that. For who knows? Start all the rumors out there. Get TMZ on it. So what are your thoughts there? Chime in there, Andy, as far as Robbie Anderson, 24 smackers.
Yeah, I first of all, I want to state for the record that I did not actually break this hand on anyone's helmet. I know there are rumors out there. I'm not going to comment on it, but it wasn't on a helmet. It wasn't a violent incident of any kind. I think Anderson has been pretty much money in the bank, and we saw him begin to pop a little bit at the end of last season, right? He had a very murky off season. We worried about him coming into this year, but he's been not only better than advertised, but Josh McCown is still a functional quarterback, which is not something that I necessarily saw coming, but there it is. Scott mentioned it, multiple touchdowns in 5 straight games. McCown himself, a top 10 fantasy quarterback on the season at the midway point, which is kind of amazing to me. And, a totally reasonable play in DFS himself this week. So sure, Anderson has become one of the most bankable receivers in our game. A guy you get for free in season-long leagues not too long ago. Absolutely. At 24, it's not an exceptional price tag, right? He's kind of right in there with the Golden Tates and Marvin Joneses of the world, and deservedly so.
We're recording this on a Thursday afternoon, of course. Forte hasn't practiced, I think, for a couple days now. Andy, is there a chance you consider Bilal Powell at $16 if Forte doesn't go?
Sure. Actually, the first lineup that I'd set of the week had Forte in there because he was like $13, and I did a little fudging with my defense and found a way to squeeze Bilal Powell into that spot. As Scott said, there's not much in Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay will allow whatever you need, right? They're like a dinner and a movie defense, right? And then
dealer's choice.
Yeah. So sure, I absolutely can see Powell catching a touchdown. It's unfortunate that he needs some other running back to get out of the way before they actually use him, but I think we're at that point now. I would, we'll see if Forte does anything tomorrow. But whether he does or not, I wouldn't expect him to be anything more than limited tomorrow. And I would expect Bilal Powell to take the lead.
Crazy thing, McCown's $32. Like, he's been doing things like scoring, multiple touchdowns in 5-6 weeks in a row, as you guys said. There's only 6, 7, 8 quarterbacks ahead of him. With Wilson on Thursday, Stafford, Brady, Prescott, Manning. Eli Manning is priced up, man. I can't believe I wanted a cheap Eli Manning this week. Somebody is sharp who's ever doing this pricing over there.
Shout out to Michael Lazarus, who does our DFS pricing over at Yahoo and is a great guy. And how did NBC not flex this McCown Fitzpatrick game this Sunday night? I mean, Brock Osweiler is going to be on in primetime. Nobody wants.
Oh my God, you're right. There are so many narrative street issues here, right? This is a revenge game for absolutely everyone involved, for both quarterbacks, for ASJ, probably for both teams.
It's going to be a lot of fun. I really think it's going to be one of the more exciting games played this weekend. I'm definitely tuning in, and I'm hoping for the over because I think I'm going to have a fair amount of players. And again, we'll talk about more on the other side as far as Tampa Bay. My guy that I want to pay up for, this is super chalky, but Le'Veon Bell, $41. My approach here, I'm summoning my inner Jay Cutler as far as the asking price.
Le'Veon Bell, good. Bell. It's B-E-L-L, right?
Well, it's L-E. There's a little like an apostrophe, that's kind of tricky. But the Bell part, just B-E-L-L. Have you heard of this guy? He's the running back of the Pittsburgh Steelers.
B-L-L? No,
you're not saying Bilal. You're not saying Bilal. You're saying Bell. Okay,
I'm not saying Bilal. Le'Veon. Le'Veon. He's $41. It's pretty steep asking, but I don't care. Look, it's he's well rested off the bye. He's good to go for 30-ish touches or so against Indianapolis. Indianapolis already a disaster defense. They lost Vontae Davis now for the season with that groin, and now they lost their top, PFF top ranker, top 15 ranked D lineman. Henry Anderson's out. And even if they're behind for whatever wonky reason, he can certainly catch the ball for 7, 8, 9 times or so, a little bit of catch up. Scott, you chime in because it seems like, how do you not tell me how you don't play Le'Veon Bell? There's only so many premium running backs these days that are going to get, you can kind of lock in for 30 touches. And he's also really talented too. And the matchup's awesome. How do we not play this guy?
Well, you know what? I kind of agree that there's only so many premium running backs, but it's been a very strange season. Look, every football season is weird in its own way. So I don't want to fall into that trope, but this has been a year where I feel like it's harder to find premium receivers that you trust. I feel like every week there's 5 or 6 running backs who I feel if I spend a lot of money on, I'd feel really good. Oh, Bell's going to do great. I don't have any problem with him at the price. I'll talk a little bit more about how Pittsburgh tends to play their road games, but Indianapolis is one of the defenses we can pick on. You have rested Steelers. You have, what hasn't gone wrong with Indianapolis? They've lost their best cover guy's been out for a while, and I guess he's off the team now. They just lost a defensive lineman. I can't see Bell falling short of 100 total yards and a touchdown as a floor, and his monster game would be best game of the week. So I have no problem with that. But I do think it's interesting how the fantasy landscape has changed, where I think in recent years, every week I could point to 8 or 10 receivers I couldn't wait to play. That list is really tight this week, to the point that I'm talking about Robbie Anderson in week 10. But I feel like at running back, not that they're coming out of the woodwork. It used to be in the 2000s, most teams preferred one running back to be the bell cow, and now they're an endangered species. But I do feel like they've gotten a little bit more of the control of the game back, where a few years ago it used to be, the first round take receivers. It's a sucker play to take running back. go 0 RB. I think that thing has shifted. That pendulum has shifted somewhat.
I think you can trust Antonio Brown. I think you can play both guys in the same lineup because I can see Pittsburgh scoring 40 points or so.
Tell me this, just for the sake of argument. Okay, if we were redrafting and Antonio Brown was off the board and you were going to take a receiver, who would you take?
How many legs does Julio Jones have?
Julio Jones, who's allergic to the end zone.
Yeah. Is it? I guess it's AJ Green by default. We're redrafting.
The soft AJ Green. You can take him out of the game by apparently chucking him around a little bit. I can do the salt that. You name anybody, I will talk him down.
You're right.
Andy, who would be your receiver too on a redraft?
It's Julio, but it's, I wouldn't be happy about it. I'd probably take a running back.
There's like two empty tiers between Antonio Brown and anybody else.
It feels like it. Yeah, I just did my shuffle up for the rest of the season, and the gap between Brown and Julio was like $9 or $10.
And obviously, a lot of this is simply related to some devastating quarterback injuries. Right, we came into the season with luck down, but man, you take Rodgers out of the game, John Watson out of the game. That's 5 receivers who were arguably wide receiver 1s, wide receiver 2s, and now. Man, where's Jordy Nelson for you? He's not even a wide receiver 2 for me.
Yeah, the Aaron Rodgers, there's like a bowling shot where you knock the one pin down, it takes all the other pins down. Yeah. I mean, that Green Bay offense is so just depressing to watch. I don't know what else to say.
So this is not a DFS question, Scott, but so you bring up Rodgers. Like, it seems like he's the most important player to his team. We talk MVP all the time, what that means and all that. But like, is Wilson the second guy? Russell Wilson? You imagine Seattle without Wilson and the offensive line, and they don't delegate a bunch of funds there, and they know what kind of quarterback they have. But imagine like a quarterback that's not as talented or as mobile as Wilson back there scrambling. It would be a disaster. Like, is he the second most valuable player in the league?
I mean, if you want to define it that way, I mean, I always think of MVP as a performance award more than a theoretical one, but I see what you're getting at. This is why I thought the Patriots were totally justified to make the Garoppolo trade, where some people said, oh, no, what if Brady gets hurt? Where are you going to be then? Where they probably realize, look, if Brady gets hurt, this whole ship
forget it.
So what's the point? Jimmy Garoppolo may be an effective player, but he's not going to be Brady. And that's a team that's very flawed, actually, even though they're 6-2. I mean, they don't have a great defense. They've lost key pieces on offense whole season without Edelman. Sounds like Hogan may be out for a while. I mean, they're just another team that's okay, but has some clear Achilles heels. I still don't think any team is really all that great this year. I know the Saints are becoming kind of trendy. Philadelphia has been a really good team. And I think Wentz is legitimate. But in a year with maybe no great teams, I hear you, though. I do not look forward to. I have a lot of Russell Wilson in leagues where I need him. And I just like watching Seattle anyway. I do not want to watch. It's hard enough to watch Seattle with their offensive line stinks and their running backs. Ever since Chris Carson got hurt, they really haven't found anybody who can do anything. I think Thomas Rawls is just a stone trap. I'm not going near him tonight. But I would not want to watch Seattle football games that didn't have Russell Wilson in them.
What's your take as far as the game Seattle versus Arizona? I mean, I think Baldwin looks pretty well positioned, but what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I think Baldwin will probably avoid Peterson. Per Pro Football Focus, Peterson has tended to not be a slot cover guy in this game and chased around Baldwin, which is something you would think a team would be tempted to do. So I think he's in good spot. Wilson, if Arizona plays a lot of man-to-man, which means Wilson will probably run for 40 or 50 yards. He's had some big games in the past, if you excuse that 6-6 tie they played when he was still clearly hurt. I think Seattle probably wins a 24-20 type of game. I don't think it'll be a pinball game, but I'll have some Wilson. I'll have some Baldwin. I guess Adrian Peterson's going to get 20-plus carries, which against Seattle's rushing defense probably won't matter. And I'll try to fade Drew Stanton like the rest of the world.
I got to take on Peterson in a second. We're going to talk about, we talked about some guys we like, guys we're willing to pay up for. Now we're going to talk about some guys we're not willing to pay up for. It's a hard pass. Andy, who are you not necessarily playing this week?
I am not paying up for Melvin Gordon. Now, we got into the Jacksonville defense who he's facing this week a little bit earlier. The key for me with Jacksonville's defense is that they just don't allow any points, right? And Gordon is a totally touchdown-dependent player. Yes, he catches the ball a little bit, but by and large, a guy who's not – he's no great shakes in terms of yards per carry. He's not the most efficient runner in the world. Jacksonville allows less than 15 total points per game. So it's kind of a question of who is going to score the Chargers' lone offensive touchdown. That might be Gordon, but at $33, I'm paying for someone who I can imagine having, a multiple touchdown game, the sort of week that, dominates the positional leaderboard. And I just don't see that in store for Gordon now. He's had the foot injury that he's probably overcome. They come off a bye. I just absolutely hate the opposing matchup. And again, the thing with Jacksonville, I know they look good on paper as a matchup for your running back, but they've had all these instances this year where they're just happy to sit back and give you 5 yards, 6 yards on the ground and let the clock run because they have these commanding leads. That's happened a few times for them, and it's affected their statistics in terms of rushing yards allowed. So I'm not the least bit interested in Gordon here.
$1 cheaper, Andy, is you're a Bears fan.
Jordan Howard, yeah.
Jordan, I love Jordan Howard. First of all, this Green Bay Chicago game is going to set football back. We talked about the Larry Zonka, like the 72 Dolphins.
It's going to end at 3 p.m. That's going to be over an hour before every other game.
It is going to be every Chicago Green Bay matchup that I grew up with that ends 12-9, right? Maybe it'll be 17-10, some kind of barn burner like that. Yeah, absolutely.
The total number of passes in this game, like it's going to be like Army and Air Force or something out there. It's going to be such a disaster. But like Jordan Howard at $32, and like if Chicago had their way, he's going to get the ball like 30 times, right?
Yes, he is so much more attractive to me than Melvin Gordon at a similar price in this one. You're right. There's almost no chance that, I mean, I've sat through some shellackings to the Green Bay Packers over the years. There's no way that happens with Brett Hundley at quarterback. And it's really difficult to imagine Green Bay getting very far over, say, 20 points in this one. So the run is always going to be in play for the Bears. And even when it's not, they still lean on Jordan Howard. So absolutely, barring injury, I think he probably finishes with 32, 33 touches.
Yeah, I know he doesn't catch the ball or whatever, not as much as you want your running back to catch the ball, but I'm perfectly fine with 30, rush the ball 30 times. He'll probably find the end zone, and it'll be a completely unwatchable game. I hope you have like red zone, or I hope you have the package where you're not forced to watch. Well, you're probably still watching it as a fan, I suppose.
That's going to be the game where when they put it in shortcuts, it's going to be like 15 minutes long. I mean, that's to keep the meter running. I'll be right back game.
Yeah.
Where it's going to end so early. Chicago runs to set up the run. And the great thing with Howard is that defense has quietly become a pretty good unit. So you never worry about the game flow getting out of hand. I don't think Chicago would unleash Trubisky anyway, but we talk about a player who's guaranteed for 20 plus touches. And the first thing you do when you look at the running back landscape every week is you got to handicap the games, and you want a running back on a team that's favored, a team that maybe is favored by a heavy chunk of points. And that's all the more reason to get away from Gordon is that, an underdog against this Jacksonville team, it's not the right time. There are times to play Gordon. It's the wrong way to play Gordon. I agree with Andy's endorsement there. And I also think that Howard is a great play this week.
Yeah, I mean, Gordon can get there through volume. I don't think he's particularly good. He can catch the ball 6 or 7 times, I suppose, but it's the scenic route. It's not, Siri would not advise this. This is not the direct route to getting fantasy points this week. Scott, tell us who you're passing on.
Oh, well, sometimes the navigation just gives you the screwiest way home. I've never really understood that, and right now people are probably saying, "Yeah, show us all the satellites that you have designed," and we'll compare notes. But I hate to ding Juju Smith-Schuster. He's been a really fun player. We talk about touchdown celebrations. He's one of the best touchdown celebrators in the league, and he actually scores touchdowns. But his price has graduated. He's actually more expensive than he is years old. He's 20 years old, $21 in the Yahoo game. It sounds like maybe Bryant will be in the mix. Not that I want to play Bryant or I even want to chase that, but it just may be another mouth to feed. We know Ben Roethlisberger on the road has become a thing. I don't think anybody has a great explanation for that, but I think Le'Veon Bell, as you mentioned earlier, although he's expensive, is going to be the heavy fulcrum of this offense. No shocker there. And I'm just worried that Schuster has become a little too trendy, a little too expensive. It sounds like the tree may be a little bit wider this week. We don't trust their quarterback on the road. As I also mentioned before, Ben Roethlisberger, one top 10 game on the season. So it's not like you're getting vintage peak Ben Roethlisberger this season. I just feel he's outgrown his price. Smith-Schuster needs to show me that he belongs in this class. And right now, just a little too pricey for me. I'm going to avoid him.
I want to hear some more information, of course, again, it's just Thursday, but I've heard positive things so far about Martavis Bryant. And maybe I'm living in like 2016 or so, or 2015. But like $11, man, $11 for Bryant. It's tempting for a cash game. Of course not, because his floor is literally 0, but like one play can justify that. He can crack off a 70-yard catch. And I'm thinking about playing him in a tournament just because maybe I hate myself. I don't know. Is that a terrible?
I totally agree with you. And where most people seem to be on Josh Gordon, that's exactly where I am on Martavis Bryant. I'm going to be a Bryant truther until he's done.
I mean, the comments are good. I mean, maybe just kind of make things right, kind of, trying to forget like whatever happened. He's a great talent, obviously, and we know the secondary.
The style of play, right? I mean, he's, as you said, he could catch a 70-yard touchdown. I mean, he's a guy who they're probably going to take a deep shot or two to, and you only need that one play. It's not like he's somebody who runs a bunch of flat routes or something. He's not like he's this, Jarvis Landry type of player. He's a field stretcher. He's a guy who runs 9 routes. He's a guy who runs by people. And to be fair to Bryant, he's had a couple of times this year where he's been clearly open and Ben's just missed him. He's wide open in that Bears game, should have been a touchdown. So it's not like Bryant has all of a sudden lost his ability. We've actually seen flashes of it this year.
Yeah. So I'm going to play him in a tournament, and we'll see how that works out. It's funny. So the guy I'm passing on, Scott, you were talking about Juju Smith-'s age. Adrian Peterson, look, he's playing Thursday night. The dude's 32 years old. He had 39 touches last week, 37 rushes on 3 days. I know he's like a cyborg and a robot or whatever. He's historically was an amazing workout warrior there at Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care. I'm not playing him. But last week, of course, he was on the positive side of game script. This week, it should be negative. He should be playing catch up, or their team should be playing catch up against Seattle, and that means less Peterson and more Ellington. So I'm not chasing these 37 touches. I'm sorry. Am I wrong on this, Scott?
Well, this is a time where I think the short turnaround we have to factor it in, and a running back in his 30s, a guy who's had an amazing amount of attrition in his career, of workload. Seattle's primarily defensive strength is not to stop the run, but still, I would think that there would be some sort of give back, some sort of payback for the fact that he's been used the way he has. I'm not going to have any DFS exposure to Peterson tonight.
Andy?
Oh, I certainly wouldn't either on a Thursday. What a terrible way to get your week started, right? No, I don't see another 30 plus touches for him. You mentioned the probability that game script will not go his way, and then he's not a guy who's necessarily on the field if they have to throw the ball. Plus, we're tying ourselves to a Drew Stanton-led offense, and that is never a good idea. No, there's nobody on the Cardinals side who's anything close to a must start for me.
It's all right, Andy. Peterson never learned how to catch passes. I mean, for all the awesome talent the guy has, he may be, depending on how you feel about Tomlinson, he may be, or Marshall Faulk, and he may be the best running back we've seen in the fantasy era, but he never really could handle the passing game.
All right. I'm being told Zeke is out, by the way, according to breaking news, at least as of Thursday.
Out Thursday, in Friday.
As of Thursday, 3:35 on the East Coast, Zeke apparently is out this week. So there you go. To do with that what you will. I don't know if you guys prepped anything or any thoughts on that. Des Bryant, we don't even know what the deal with is with him. As far as, do we have any thoughts on Scott in this? Like, sort of backup plan, or like the Dolphins are running backs are still really cheap too. So like we don't necessarily have to play that game as far as punt running backs.
What I've had the script in my head is that the moment as Elliott's suspension hit, and I fully believe if he doesn't serve it this year, if he somehow finds a way to get an appeal of an injunction of a stay. I've learned one thing from this thing. I'm not a lawyer. I just don't understand how all this stuff works. But I do think he's going to be suspended someday, whether it's this year, whether it's next year. I don't think it's going to magically go away. And I can't wait to use Dak Prescott when that happens. And I don't even care if Bryant's on the field. The strange thing about Prescott and Bryant is that they've never had, this has not been like a Jordy Nelson, Aaron Rodgers relationship. A lot of times it's been Prescott with his legs. It's been Prescott throwing to different guys. Terrence Williams had a big game last week. We saw the 2 touchdowns from Cole Beasley that nobody could have anticipated. I think Dak is a special talent. He reminds me so much of Wilson. A guy who wasn't a first-round pick, a guy who wasn't drafted ostensibly to be a starter, who was just so good that they couldn't go away from him. Now they're set up for 8 or 10 years. At some point, as Ezekiel Elliott will be suspended, sounds like maybe this week, and I guarantee you I will have Dak Prescott options in that week, because I think he's a special guy, and I don't think it really matters to him who's on the field. He's going to be dynamic.
I want Butler to get unleashed. I think he's a real talent.
So do I.
They keep suppressing him for whatever reason, and they're married to Williams.
It's a case of the X's and the Z's, right? Where he plays the wrong position. Where can't they just teach him how to be a receiver who plays off the line of scrimmage? They can't do that. I don't know. Sure seems to get open. I know he dropped a pass in the sun last week, which kind of begs the question of why do you have the sun shining down in the middle of the football field? He spent $1 or $2 on that stadium, But I digress. Yeah, Bryce Butler sure seems to get open a heck of a lot.
They should have hired George Costanza to be the architect there to build that stadium or something. But all right, well, we're behind. Hot take, fire away, Andy.
Yeah. If I've got a, let's see. If I've got a hot take, I'm going to say that Devontae Booker is not only the more valuable Broncos running back this week, but is ultimately in season long leagues the most valuable Broncos running back rest of season for whatever that's worth. He's looked really good to me the last couple of weeks. It's 12 carries over the last 2 games, over 60 yards. He's the one who catches passes, right? CJ Anderson has like 2 receptions over the last 4 weeks. So Devontae Booker is the guy who has a little PPR element to his game. And CJ Anderson just seems like a spent force right now, right? He's injured. He's got the ankle. I don't believe he even practiced today because he's got an illness as well. Not running particularly well lately. And Booker was 1 snap away from him last week, right? They were separated in terms of touches by just 1, in terms of snaps by just 1. I think Booker is ascending and CJ is just about cooked. And then you get the great matchup this week with New England. They allow over 5 yards per carry.
Yeah, it seems like a spot where you also can catch 7 or 8 dump offs or so, playing some catch up if things go the way it's expected as far as New England versus Denver as well. What are your thoughts on that? By all means, chime in there, Scott, and also give me your hot take.
I can see it in part because Charles hasn't really gotten enough volume to be in the way either. I don't. It's not that I really want to get invested in this offense, but the price is right on Booker. It does seem like he's the one guy that maybe they can hang their hat on in this backfield, and they're going to try to hide their quarterback or limit their quarterback as much as possible. I think that for the price, there's certainly profit potential there, and I could sign off on it. My hot take: remember in Rounders where they play in the Ivy League football game? I'm sorry, poker game, and if you look closely, I think you see Cameron Brate and Ryan Fitzpatrick in there. These guys went to Harvard together. They have the secret handshakes. They have all that stuff that goes along with it. And now it's back in business. And look, I am sick of watching an injured Jameis Winston play. I know he's ostensibly, a star quarterback if he's healthy, but he hasn't been healthy all season. Ryan Fitzpatrick is a flawed quarterback. We've seen it before, but he's healthy, went to Harvard. He's got the H on his hat. So does Cameron Brate have that H. Guys are going to hook up at least once, I think maybe even twice, in the game of the year, Jets, Tampa Bay. Move over Deshaun Watson and Russell Wilson. We got I'm still trying to get NBC to televise this game, or maybe Yahoo could simulcast it or something. But yeah, I'm calling it. Fitzpatrick and Brate are going to hook up and have a big game. I'm saying at least 1 touchdown, which means maybe 2. Who knows? What's the record for touchdowns for a tight end in a game? Maybe Brate challenges this. You're going to know the Harvard fight song by the end of this game.
You have to think that some of those extra targets from Evans are going to be distributed to.
Right, no Evans. How could I not mention that? Yeah, no Mike Evans, of course.
To Brate as well. And do you consider a guy like Adam Humphries in the slot for $12? Is he also in play for you?
Yeah, just because they have to do something with the Evans targets, and I don't think the running game is going anywhere. And Fitzpatrick, he's got that, if I can say DGAF, I mean, he's got a little, I just don't really care. I'm just going to chuck it downfield. We'll see what happens. I'm sure the Jets will probably get a couple of interceptions in this game, but, Fitzpatrick will get his stuff too. Yeah, again, Humphries, there are so few receivers you want to pay up for. It's not like if you go cheap at receiver, you're missing the 3 or 4 sure things that everybody else has. That it makes me more open-minded to maybe go for some of the cheaper receivers, where in the years past, I've been like, oh no, I got to have the $32 this guy or the $31 that guy because I'm going to be screwed when he goes off. I just never feel that worried about the high-priced receivers now. Even Brown, I mean, I know it's the Colts and everything, but it's a road game. It's an offense that's been all about the running back. I mean, I don't know, can you justify Brown at his price this week? So yeah, I see the case for Humphries. I'm not sure I'll have exposure to him, but I'm at least gonna pause on it. And I guess I probably won't have exposure because at Brate at 19, I think is a really good value.
Scott mentioned something there that I wanted to hit on, and that is the great thing about Ryan Fitzpatrick is he can support the fantasy assets on his own offense, and he can support the opposing defense too, right? Like for sure, you're getting a couple of turnovers from the Jets in this one. They're like $11 in Yahoo's daily game. I mean, I like if you're going cheap at defense, I think that's a great plan.
Yeah, I like it.
We joke about the narratives a lot, but Fitzpatrick believes he's legit. Like he's not shying away from it. He really wants this game. And again, the double Harvard deal going down. We got ASJ who hates the other side. We got double narratives all over the place, and that game is going to be a ton of fun. Seriously, if you're going to power rank the games to watch this weekend, it's definitely it's on the Olympic stand or something. The podium.
That's a 9-6 game. I'm just going to be in a corner weeping and crying and penniless.
The cube of shame. It's not going to be fun. I hope things go well. As far as my hot take this week, Carlos Hyde, $23. That's perfectly reasonable for me. We're a few weeks separated away from remember that whole hot hand nonsense there with San Francisco? That's some silliness, right? 28 targets as far as the passing game in the last 3 weeks. Part of that has to do with the fact that they're dreadful and terrible, and there's nobody else to pass the ball to. And, they're always playing catch up, but he can run the ball as well. As a matter of fact, he's ran the ball the second most in the NFL as far as carries inside the 5-yard line. The Giants, their defense is pretty weak. It's actually been pretty disappointing. I expect to be much better this year. 25th DVOA when it comes to the run, 24th DVOA when it comes to receivers, running backs becoming receivers out of the backfield. I'm going to call, let's see, 150 yards and a score. Sure, why not? Are we all aboard Carlos Hyde, Andy?
I am actually. I'm starting him in at least 2 lineups. I'm gonna be in attendance at this game. By the way, I'm gonna be among the dozens in attendance at the stadium.
Paying off a bet. Did you lose something, or how'd that come about?
Well, because we're filming Fantasy Football Live, a couple miles away.
Did we sign a contract with CJ Beathard that I don't know about?
This gives me a chance to be there for what is perhaps the final game of the CJ Beathard experience.
The last days of discount, right? Yeah, the final games of Beathard.
I'm pretty excited about that. I'm missing out on George Kittle. That's a bummer. These are all Iowa connections. So yeah, I'm fully on board with Carlos Hyde. This is another one of those situations where there's even though it's a bad team, right? There's almost no chance that New York just runs away from San Francisco in my mind. So and plus Hyde can catch the ball, so it's going to be in play all day. Yeah,
is it too late for them to sign Sean Green or trade for CJ Fedorowicz, or what can we do here? Can AC Earl or Roy Marble show up?
I'll put a call in. I know a guy. I'll put a call in for you. Yeah, Kittle not playing as well too. Is anybody interested in the lesser Selleck brother? So Garrett Selleck for $10, who hasn't even in college the dude didn't do anything. I guess he hasn't been given an opportunity. I suppose.
I love the lesser brother game. Like the Billy Ripkins and Stephen Baldwins and Tommy Aaron.
Yeah.
I love that game. Keith Crowder and Bruce Crowder. You can go on and on.
Billy Ripken will be forever remembered for his baseball card. If you Google that one, that's
card. Yeah. I think he gave that out as a wedding favor to his wedding party.
That's a pretty solid gift. All right, we got to stop. All right, $10 ballers. Let's knock out our $10 ballers. They're not specifically $10. I think all of us, we all cheated this week. Scott, who's your $10 pump this week?
Man, I feel dirty doing this because the Green Bay offense is so awful, but it's back into a timeshare. I expect them to be behind against the Bears. So I think Ty Montgomery is going to catch a bunch of cheap passes. He's $13. I don't really want this to happen because I have some Aaron Jones seasonal shares that I would like to have to be worth something before I throw them in the garbage can. But I think this is a week that even though they start off as a hot hand or they start off as a timeshare, the Bears control the game. And you look up and Ty Montgomery has 7 catches. I like him at $13.
Andy, you got to take as far as the Miami backfield?
Damian Williams is $11, and it's basically a 50-50 split. Maybe it's 52-48, whatever. We know that Kenyon Drake has never been a full workload guy. Maybe he was in high school. He certainly wasn't in college. He's not going to be now. Williams had one of the touchdowns of the week last week, right? He bulldozed a couple guys, dove into the end zone. They love him at the goal line. They liked him at the goal line last year, and he's going to catch 5 or 6 passes. So there's no way he doesn't earn $11 in this one.
So my $10 baller is a $15 T.Y. Hilton, and this is not point chasing. This is price chasing. Look, I'm willing to pay. We're living in the world of a confined salary cap. I'm willing to pay for anybody for the right price, and I'm willing to fade anybody at the wrong price. And I understand this matchup's not great. I totally get it. But he's $5 above the Stowe minimum as far as the asking price on Yahoo. Look, they're probably going to be chasing. They're probably going to be down, so they're going to be chucking. And, of course, he's in a dome where, he's much better at home on the turf. Again, bad matchup, great price, really, really appealing to me. And it's not, look, that last week, I know that goofy touchdown he had. By the way, has that been rampant this year? It feels like it's happened more times than I don't know what's going on as far as just touch a guy when he's down. How about that?
Seriously, you know what? The Bilal Powell play was the worst. Guys were just standing around him while he was flopping around on the ground and nobody just laid a hand on him.
Oh, that
the
was
whole
so
time
tilting.
you're like, what are you doing? This isn't a touchdown. This is coming back. And then it was a touchdown. By the way, I want to congratulate you about the Hilton call. I do believe that's the most expensive $10 baller we've had all year. So we've broken through new ground. I feel like confetti should drop. And again, just to back up Hilton and to endorse him, I wish Jacoby Brissett were still on the Patriots. They traded him for Philip Dorsett. They didn't have any traffic cones they wanted to get rid of, or a kicking tee, or a couple of old footballs. I mean, what a giveaway. Jacoby Brissett is at least a really good backup and maybe even a low-end starter in the NFL, and the Patriots gave him away for nothing.
Yeah, he seems competent if nothing else. And as far as backups go, that's an endorsement.
You think the Texans wouldn't like to have Jacoby Brissett right now?
Oh,
or the Packers?
Matt McGloin got signed there. I don't know what's going on. Houston is such a disaster, and we're not getting a discount on Hopkins. It's just we weren't planning to talk about Hopkins, but Hopkins is what, $34? He's probably going to see 15 or 16 targets, but not all targets are created equal, and his targets are created poorly because
you have to somehow get through on ugly volume. And there's going to be some weeks where he may get 13, 14 targets and catch 2 passes. That's how bad Savage is. And look at what it does to Will Fuller. He went from a difference-making player in seasonal and DFS to a guy who might as well not even be on the sheet anymore.
Yeah. He's no longer Chris Carter. We can't say that about him, just catching touchdowns. But that is the show. We this one just kind of flew by for whatever reason. Our time is up, but we got to step aside before we do that. Scott, tell the people where they can find you on the interwebs.
Yeah, Scott_Pianowski, only about 17 hours a day. So try to time your schedule right, and we'll link up. We can talk about football, music, or anything you want to.
Talk about Radiohead one of these days.
Talk about Radiohead.
I saw you talking about Radiohead the other day, about the Bends, and how it's the definitive best Radiohead album of all time. And
I did link to a cover that the Radiohead did of my favorite Smith song, The Headmaster Ritual. It came out 10 years ago this week, and just a dynamic version. So if you're a Smiths fan, a Radiohead fan, or damn it, if you're just a Scott Pianowski fan, get over to their Twitter and check that out.
I'll give it a click. I'll check it out. Andy, where can the people find you?
If you want to have a conversation about the replacements, I'm here for you. At Andy Behrens. I don't know that I keep exactly Scott's hours, but I'm there for you very early in the morning. I'm there for you more hours than not.
Yeah, office hours is what you keep. Banker's hours.
I want to talk about Arcade Fire or The National. Those are the bands I want to talk about.
Oh, sure, Conversation 16 or Blood Buzz Ohio. Great tunes.
There you go. All right, that's our show. We're stepping aside. We're getting out of here. Again, if you guys want to play in Yahoo this week, $75,000 baller is in the lobby right now. $10 to jump in that. $10K to first if you bink it. Turn $10 into $10K. That's good times. With that, he's Scott. He's Andy. I'm Dean. Thanks for watching. Good luck in week 10. We're out of here. Holler.
Go Bears.